Hello, and welcome to another edition of the New Plant series for 2021. My name is Jessica, and I work at the Mineral Point Road location of K&A Greenhouse. Today, I'll be going over the new evergreen trees for this season. I do also have an evergreen shrub recording and one on broadleaf evergreens if that's something that you're looking for as well. So, a new actually deciduous evergreen is a dawn redwood called Miss Grace. It's a weeping form of the dawn redwood. We've had the yellow needled variety in the past, which we're also going to be getting in, called Gold Rush this season. This one is a little bit shorter. It will be 6 to 8 feet tall at maturity and probably about 2 to 3 feet wide when it's a mature tree. I say it's a deciduous evergreen because it has the needles that all the conifers get, but you can see on the right hand side in the fall it changes to kind of a bronze orange color, and then it does lose all of the needles in the winter, which will regrow again in spring and summer here for us. The other kind of good quality of this plant is it tolerates moist and wet sites. So again, if you have a spot in your landscape that has standing water or just seems to not drain all that well, you can put this one in there and it'll handle that spot just fine. This one is going to be arriving in early to mid-May for us, not right away in the spring. We're getting this one from out in Oregon State. So when we get it in, it should be leafed out for us, and it probably will be a really nice specimen. This one has a hardiness zone of 5. A new white spruce for us this year is the McConnell's Gold, and you can see in the photo the new growth is a nice kind of chartreuse green, almost a buttery yellow color, which does change back to the darkish, the green, almost emerald green color as it ages. The cones on this too, when they first come out, are a nice maroon color, and then they'll change to the brown that everyone's familiar with. This is another one that is arriving in early May, early to mid May, depending on when we can get that truck from Oregon. Full sun is best for the new growth coloring. If you put it in too much shade, the new growth will just be the standard light green that you'll see on just about any white spruce. So it's best if you can give it at least 4 hours of sun, but 6 hours or more is best for this one. This one has the typical, what we call Christmas tree pyramidal growth on it. You don't need to do a lot of pruning as long as you give it enough space. Eventually, it'll be 15 to 20 feet tall and approximately 10 feet wide. And this is an incredibly hardy plant. The white spruce is native to Wisconsin, so this is considered a nativar, basically a native variety. And the hardiness zone, because it's a native, is a zone 2. And everyone tends to like the blue spruces, and unfortunately, they don't always do very well here in the Madison area because of our clay soils. I talked to someone who told me, I think it was our sales rep, who told me that if you want to avoid a lot of disease problems on the blue spruces, don't plant the regular sized one. If you plant the dwarf, for some reason, they don't have as many problems with the fungal diseases that a lot of the larger species will. So the baby blue is a little bit shorter. It's a dwarf. Typically around here, it's kind of like the avatar that we also are getting in this year. The baby blue has just a little bit brighter blue needles on it than some of the other dwarf blue spruce varieties. Um, the mature height on this one is about 10 to 15 feet tall. It still will need about 8 to 10 feet of width in your landscape. So don't think because it's a dwarf, it's going to be, 3 by 3. But this one still is quite smaller than the typical Colorado blue spruce that you'll see in the landscape. And the hardiness zone on this one is a zone 3. This is a new type of Engelman spruce that I haven't actually seen available from Isley until this year. I don't know if that means they just were always out of it or if it's actually new on the market this year. I believe the pronunciation is Fritsche. from what I've heard from a professor at UW-Madison. This one almost looks like a blue form of a Norway spruce, the way that the branches are pendulous. Some of the needles are almost weeping on it. So it gives you an option to put in if you don't want to put in the blue spruce for the reasons I listed in the previous slide. This one is definitely hardier here in Wisconsin and tolerates our clay soils better here in the Madison area. It's still only 15 to 20 feet tall. Still need to give it 10 to 15 feet in width. It's a slow grower, so it will not reach mature size for a good 10 to 15 years when it's been planted here in Wisconsin. The hardiness zone on this one too is also a zone 3, so it's plenty hardy for us here in Wisconsin. So we in the past have gotten just a straight pendula for the weeping Norway spruce, which we will have again this year. The Frohburg is just a little bit more narrow. So if you can see in this photo, it's a very small bed in between, the driveway and the front walk. But this really won't get much wider than a foot or two, and it varies on mature height because it will keep growing up as long as you keep staking it. So if you only want it to get to 5 feet tall and then to weep down after that, just need to stake it to the 5 feet and then just let it go. If you want it to be a little bit taller, just keep staking it with a bamboo stake, and then that will just keep it growing upwards. This is another one that's not arriving until right around Mother's Day for us. It's coming from Oregon State again. And this one doesn't have any like funky new growth colors on it. It's just that nice dark green that the Norway spruce tend to have. The hardiness zone on this one is also a zone 3. So the Serbian spruce is one of those evergreens that I feel like is underutilized, especially for our clay soils. They do tolerate sandy soils, clay soils. The only thing they don't really like is really wet feet. Serbian spruce are a very slow grower though. Typically, it's about 6 inches of growth a year. So you won't see it reach the mature height for quite a while. But this one is another good one if you wanted that blue coloring and you don't want to deal with the issues that blue spruce have here in this part of the state. So this one has the pyramid shape. It will eventually get to 10 to 15 feet tall, and it's a little bit more columnar, so it's 8 to 10 feet wide instead of like a 15-foot width as well. You can see from the photo it has the pyramidal shape, so you don't need to do any pruning. And the odd kind of wiggly part on the new growth on the branches is part of the appeal for this one. So it doesn't have the straight branching patterns that some of the other pyramidal spruces will have. This one is bred to do that, where it's kind of a wavy branch instead of the straight branch. This one's another one that's arriving from Oregon State, so it'll be right around Mother's Day that we'll start to see these. And with the Serbian spruce, when you look at it far away, it looks like it has that silvery blue. The needles, when you look at them close up, they're blue on the upper part, and then underneath it's kind of a silvery color. So it has almost a bicolor look to it when you look at it close up. And the hardiness zone on this Serbian spruce is a 4. This is a new one for us this year, again coming from Isley Nursery. It's called Thunderhead. It has been available in the past, but only as a larger bald and burlap tree. So this one will be a potted version that we can sell in our nursery yard. Full sun is best for this one, and it doesn't handle really heavy clay soils. So if you have an area that's more sandy or has more of that loamy quality to it, this one would do really well there. If you plant it in clay, it'll still grow. It just will grow slower. Pines tend to prefer a looser soil than what the clay soils tend to have. This one is described as having a billowy pyramidal form. So it's not a straight like Christmas tree form. You will have kind of a wavy silhouette to it. This one is considered a dwarf, 10 to 15 feet tall, 10 to 12 feet wide. and it will need a little bit of protection here because it's a zone 5. So I wouldn't plant it out in the middle of your property, but if you can put it closer to a house or a garage or some sort of protected spot, that would be a good place for it. And Swiss stone pine is starting to become popular again. We have had a couple of varieties in the past. This one is a new one for us that I haven't actually seen offered before, so it may be a newer one on the market as well, called Silver Whispers. This one is coming to us from Monrovia, so it's still coming from out west, but Monrovia does a really good job of growing their evergreens as well. So um, she told me, my sales rep told me, this one is going pretty fast. The appeal to this one that's a little bit different than the other Swiss stone pine is that it has that silvery underside of the needles. So again, if you look at, you can see in the photo here, it's kind of a bluish green on the top and then a silvery underside. So it gives that bicolor appearance again. The Swiss stone pine tend to have more of a columnar growing habit, as you can see in the right hand picture, rather than a pyramidal shape. So it fits a little bit better in city lots and properties. 10 to 15 feet tall, but only 4 to 6 feet wide. So you don't need to give it quite as much space as some of the pyramidal spruce trees. And one note with Swiss stone pine they are slower growers too. So you'll get about 6 inches of growth every year, not going to accelerate and fill in an area very quickly. So you'll have to wait a few years in order to see it get to the mature size. The Swiss stone pine silver whispers hardiness zone is a zone 3, so it's a little bit hardier than some of the other varieties we've carried in the past. So this is the native to Wisconsin eastern red cedar. I had quite a few people ask for it last year and the year before, so I thought I would get some in for us to sell this year. The scientific name of it is Juniperus virginiana. I learned about this way back in forestry school. So this is one of the parents of a lot of the other more ornamental junipers that you see on the market. It's just this one is the native species grown here in Wisconsin. Full sun is the best for this one, but it will tolerate partial shade, so at least 4 hours of sun a day. And this one really will grow just about anywhere. In the wild, you'll see them growing on top of rocks or in between cracks in rocky surfaces. Sandy soil is usually what's preferred, but it will tolerate, loamy soil or the clay soils that we have here in the Madison area. One other thing is the eastern red cedar has blueberries that form in late summer that the birds really enjoy eating. So this is a good one if you're looking to attract any of the bird species that pass through here in fall. And the hardiness zone, because it is a native in Wisconsin, is a zone 2. And I have 2 new hemlocks coming in this year. One is Golden Duchess and the other is Golden Duke. Golden Duchess is a hair shorter than the Golden Duke, so if you want more of a dwarf version, this is your better bet. It's 3 to 4 feet tall and 3 to 5 feet wide. It has the yellow needles year round. And with most hemlocks, this one is tolerant to those wet sites too, but they will grow in drier spots as well. It's just they will tolerate that. If you have standing water somewhere, they'll tolerate that area quite well. The best thing is partial sun for this, so 4 to 6 hours of sun. It will tolerate full shade, but the yellow won't be quite as bright. If you put it in full sun, the yellow needles will turn white because they'll burn out. So try to keep it right around 4 to 6 hours of sun if you can. And then the Golden Duke is, as I said, a little bit taller. It's 6 to 10 feet tall, still only 2 to 3 feet wide. So it is more almost columnar in shape because it is quite a bit taller than it is wider. But this one is also noted that sometimes in the winter, Golden Duke needles will turn almost orange. Sometimes it almost looks like it's dead, but then in the spring it will releaf and the needles will turn yellow again. Again, with this one, it'll tolerate the wetter sites as well as the dry sites, and part sun is best for this one too. And then we do have a concolor fir, also known as a white fir, coming in this year. They will be in 1 gallon pots, so they're not going to be large trees by any stretch. But I think this is a great option if you don't want to do a blue spruce. I've always loved these trees. They're just really hard to find from our suppliers. So I figure 1 gallon is better than not having them at all. Uh, the the needles on this one is not quite a true blue, but it looks almost like a blue green to my eyes. And then when the cones come out, they're that really cool kind of sky blue color before they change over to the brown. Eventually, from a 1 gallon container, it will take quite a bit to get to mature size, but they will be 30 or 40 feet tall and about 20 feet wide. They have that pyramidal the growth habit, and they're tolerant of our clay soils here a lot better than some other evergreens. The only thing they don't like is having wet feet. Typically, firs they tend to rot if you give them or if you put them in a spot that's too wet. And this one actually is not going to be arriving until mid to late May, so we won't have this one until after Mother's Day. And with the hardiness zone on this one, it's listed as a zone 4. So that is all I have for evergreen trees for you today. If you have any questions, feel free. You can give us a call at either of these phone numbers. You can email us at kandagreenhouse@gmail.com, or if you want to see what other plants we have available, you can check. We have our plant lists available on our website right now, which is www.kandagreenhouse.com. So we're opening this year on Friday, April 16th. So hopefully we'll see you either on our opening weekend or sometime this spring. And until then, keep thinking warm thoughts.